have some great information today about first-time home buyers. We've got Joe Connor with Homeowners Financial Group, and then we have Joe Coleman with Callaway Realty. And what is it with trying, there's so many first-time home buyers. What are the advantages of being a first-time home buyer?
You know, the thing about first-time home buyers, a lot of people waited. You know, they stayed with their parents, they watched pricing go up and everything like that. And I always get the same thing from them. You know, it's scary to buy a house right now. Like, what's going to happen with prices and interest rates? And it's the what, if. And, you know, it's scary to buy a home in any market. But, you know, of all the first-time home buyers I've ever put in houses, none of them have ever come back to me 6 months later, a year later, 2 years later and say, geez, I wish we would have stayed tenants. You know, buying a house in any market, whether it's your first time or your 50th time, is going to be daunting. And, you know, the important thing to remember is that, you know, what's daunting is the lack of knowledge. And so you want to always be as informed as possible. And that's why I always think having an agent that just spells out the process completely, makes you part of every decision, big or small, and then also having a lender that, you know, is just as informative is crucial because, you know, I know you deal with a lot of first-time home buyers, and, you know, and from the lending side, it's got to be completely different.
It is. It's a lack of knowledge, exactly, and it's that fear that people have that have never gone through that process before. That's the scariest part. It's picking up the phone, having that conversation with a realtor, and then starting the conversation with a lender, which is the application process. And everybody has a fear of maybe my credit's not good enough, or maybe I don't have the down payment that's going to be required, because there's so much information on the internet. And not all that information is true. I don't know if everybody knows that or not, but you can't believe everything that you read.
It has to be true.
Exactly.
If it's in
Right. Exactly. So it's really not as difficult as a process. You just need a starting point. You need to have that initial conversation so that you understand what it is you're going to need to do to accomplish your goals. But you can't ever know that unless you start the process. And a lot of people are very surprised that you don't need to have a perfect credit score. You don't need to have 20% down. You don't need to have all these things that people think that they need to have in order to purchase a home. And so talking with a qualified realtor and talking with a qualified lender, that's the best first step to get a game plan together to actually accomplish that goal of owning a home.
Well, and I don't know if you guys agree with this or not. I usually tell people, shouldn't they talk to you to get the whole mortgage in place, see what they qualify, before they're going to go over to Joe and say, oh yeah, I want this house, and maybe it's a little bit too much for them, or because if they don't know what they can actually qualify for, it makes a big difference. Because you do get people that are so freaked out about it. Oh, renting, that's just easier. But the truth is, a lot of them are on the fence. They want to own a home. They don't think they can for all the reasons you've said. So if they contact you and then you can get them kind of that pre-qualification, it's better for you when they come to you and you know, yes, this is a house that they can actually afford.
Yeah, whether you start with an agent first or the lender first, getting pre-qualified and knowing what you can buy is always going to be in that very first part of the process. Because if you know, a lot of people can buy more than they think they can. Some people it's less, you know, but knowing that number is obviously crucial. But that just goes into knowing all the information. You know, that's one piece of the puzzle in buying a house. And you know, people think it's hard, they think it's difficult because it's the great unknown. But it's actually a lot easier than people think, especially if you get the right agent and the right lender to work with you, because we've done this thousands of times. You know, this isn't our first time, you know, being an agent on a house, being a lender on a house. And so that knowledge and experience is forwarded onto you, the client, whether it's your first time or not. And, you know, so you don't have to wait to buy a house, you know, because I always tell people that tell me, oh, we're going to wait for this, we're going to wait for that. It's like, you know, go wait, you know, because you're just going to, there's always going to be something that holds you up from buying. But really, if you just sit down with people and have this conversation, you'll realize how actually reachable home ownership is. And it's one of the...
It doesn't need to happen right this second either, right? Like just because you start the process doesn't mean you have to be closing on a home in 30 days. It could be a year out. It could be 2 years out. But at least having that starting point to understand what it is you need to do to get to that finish line. That's the most important part.
And it's the best investment.
The best
owning
investment.
a home is the best. So no matter what, I know people, especially those first-time home buyers, they need to get off the fence and they need to start the process.
Exactly.
Yeah. Hardest part is starting. So once you do that, the tough part's over.
All right, they're taking that leap of faith and going after the Joes.
Let's do it.
Thanks, guys.
Thank
you.